thanks Fusion Sport for the opportunity to come and share New Zealand cricket's story with you today. It's an absolute privilege to be here at the Gabba. I'm having an emotional experience. It's such an amazing ground. I had never been here. So for a Kiwi to stand on such turf is just fantastic. I'm so excited. Calming down. As Jack said, I've been with New Zealand cricket for 18 years. I've seen a lot of change in technology over that time. I've seen a lot of changes in the game itself. T20 is now this incredible format that draws in crowds and fans, and also offers incredible opportunities for our players all around the world. I've seen a lot of changes in our organisation in 18 years, how we communicate with people, etc. We had an earthquake in Christchurch in 2011 and lost our head office. We had 1 hour to get in, to get anything out, so we prioritised laptops and backpacks, and everything else went down in the building. After that, we relocated our head office to Auckland, where we could be closer to our major stakeholders. But as mentioned, I work at the High Performance Unit at Lincoln University. We have 3 cricket grounds out there. We have a marquee that we put up over the winter because it gets awfully cold in Christchurch. We have snow. We have cricket players wandering across the snow in with their cricket bags to practice under our marquee on grass before they head off to India or to a World Cup. So we have to get pretty clever in New Zealand around preparing our teams for pinnacle events. So today I'm just going to walk you through, please work, thank you, a New Zealand cricket story. So culture is a major player in our sport. I'm going to talk about New Zealand cricket's culture, the BLACKCAPS team first culture, which underpins all of our high-performing teams, and just sort of paint a picture for you about New Zealand cricket, how small we are on the world stage, but how we do quite good, actually, your BLACKCAPS. I'm going to walk you quickly through our AMS journey because prior to the AMS, we had IPPs on paper sitting on a desk somewhere, and it would just get lost. So I'll walk you on a journey on how we got to where we are today. I'll talk through the quick wins that we've had with Smarterbase, and also some of the challenges that we've faced with the system, not with Smarterbase, but with a decentralised system, and just some of the things we've had to deal with around mindsets and things like that. I'm also going to walk you through some of our forms, which just quite quickly, but I really wanted to show you some of the workflows. Our operations team use it, and I'll show you some of the forms that we use on tour, when the BLACKCAPS are on tour and when they're off tour. Just a quick run through to sort of show you what we're doing. We've been using Smarterbase for 2 years, but we've just scratched the surface. My role with high performance is quite varied, so the AMS takes about a quarter of my time, and I wish I had more time and resources to develop it to what I know the tool can do for us. So I'm really excited about what we're going to do next, and Jack's going to help me with that. Thanks, Jack. It's great. But I really wanted to start by talking about our culture, because it underpins everything about us and our style of play. So I think the World Cup, not going to cry or anything, but I think the World Cup sort of is an example of New Zealand's style of play. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the BLACKCAPS culture. And I thought I'd just start with a couple of words from Kane. This is a month after our devastating, crushing loss at the World Cup final.
We've got a great bunch of guys in the side that keep each other honest, and we know that we want to be true to ourselves in terms of the way we conduct ourselves on and off the park, and the sort of cricket that we play. And it's equally important, I think, the quality of the performance and also your behaviours around that. So that is important to all of us as a team. It's not so much about trying to achieve those things and have nice things said. It's just trying to be us and commit to that through the ups and downs. And you know, it's great that if it is having a positive impact on people that are watching, and that's a nice thing to hear. But the focus still remains similar for us, and it is just trying to do the things the way that we would like to do them.
So Kane's talking about that it's not just about performances, but about the behaviours. And I think that we all have our values in our team environments and in our organisations. but unless you're actually living them on a day-to-day basis, they're just words on a page. And I think the BLACKCAPS is a great example of how their team-first culture underpins everything that they do on and off the field. The team-first culture, what does that look like? That is an individual, whether that's the team, whether it's a player or management, putting the team's needs above their own, thinking about their needs. It's about an athlete out in the middle sacrificing a personal milestone in order for the team to win. So that could be a player wanting to get his 100, but he needs to slow that run rate down as a part of his role. So it's sort of like, that's the team first, what it looks like on the field, and off the field is just as important with our team. They know that they're role models, not just for the kids out there or the fans, but they reflect on us as a country. And so the team think about that and are aware of that on and off the field. So that could mean simple things like cleaning the dressing room after a match that they've just lost, so that they're respecting the host and reflecting us as a country. So that's how they reflect their team-first cultures on and off the field. I could rabbit on about that, but I won't. I'll go on to the next. So we have this induction process. It's a major step up, as you can all imagine, playing for your domestic team and then being thrust into an international situation with the BLACKCAPS on tour. So there's a massive step up in intensity, not just in the middle, but touring lifestyles, being away from your family. So we have an induction process for any individual, whether that be an athlete or the management team, coming into the BLACKCAPS environment, just so that they understand what team first means, that they get a personal connection with those values, and also around the expectations that the team has when they enter that environment. Because it can take just one athlete or one person to come into that environment, and it just puts everyone out of kilter. So we have some, they're pulled up by their own team members if they go off the rails, which are pretty good. They don't really want. We also hold a lot of previews and reviews around pinnacle events such as World Cups, and I work closely with the BLACKCAPS management team. That sounds very formal, and it is, but the component around the team first culture is that it's a platform for the athletes to be able to give us feedback around how they connect to their team first values. If there's any disconnect there, if there's any behaviours that they believe that we should be addressing in that team first culture. The team first culture is driven by Kane, driven by our manager, Mike Sandel, and also by Gary Stead. And so they know that they're not just role models for the country, but also for the new people that are coming, or the new players that are coming into this environment. So everyone lives those team first values on and off the field. That leads to our New Zealand way, our style of play, we call it. We've been told we play a little nice sometimes. We like to win, but we always want to win the right way. We want to make our country proud, whether it's out in the middle or whether it's behind a computer. So the New Zealand way is an outcome from these team first values. This leads into New Zealand cricket as an organisation. These are our values. I think it's pretty cool working for a company that wants you to have fun and to work hard and respect each other and include each other. So with values like this as a foundation for our organisation, and with the BLACKCAPS and the White Ferns reflecting those team first values on and off the field, we actually make a reasonable impact on the world stage for a country our size. And so in terms of that, in the current rankings, New Zealand is second in the test rankings and third in the one-dayers, and we're currently ranked 6th in the T20 rankings. And so for a small country, we're pretty proud of that, and that's completely all around consistent performances right across the board. Kane talks about at the World Cup, it wasn't, every game was a new game. It wasn't a final, it wasn't anything like that. Every game was a new game, and they go on with a fresh mind. So consistent performances are what are helping us to get to the top of these rankings, and we want to stay there, so we've got to get clever. In terms of our funding model, this isn't a woe as us, we don't get much money type scenario, but over an 8-year period from the World Cups, we are paid this amount of money, and compared to the rest of the test playing nations, That money funds our entire game of cricket in New Zealand, including our non-professional game. So we can pretty much halve what you see there is what then is put into our high-performing athletes that put us onto the rankings in this world stage. So that's just a quick picture of our resources. New Zealand, what a beautiful looking country. We've got 4.8 million, and that's about the size of Sydney. This is just painting a picture on how small we are in our resources, including our player pool. We have 6 major associations in New Zealand. Our head office is based up in Auckland, and I'm down here in the south, the cold part, and we have a great facility down there. We used to bring our athletes over here to Maroochydore in the sunshine for a couple of weeks of training, and then we decided to put a marquee up in the snow. And I've got to say they weren't very happy about that. So they were very, very upset about not going to Maroochydore for 2 weeks. Instead, they're down at Lincoln, staying in our own accommodation and playing cricket in the snow. But it's more about the resources around these athletes that they get excited about now. So the BLACKCAPS want to come to Lincoln and work with us because we have the mental skills and we have the nutritionists and the strength and conditioning coaches, specialist coaches in every field, and fielding and bowling. So they want to come down and meet us and work with us. So we have 64,000 people playing cricket in New Zealand, and 57 of them are male. We're making a major push in the female game in New Zealand, and it's very exciting to see progress. And we're talking about getting women involved, not just on the field, but also at board level and coaching and umpiring and getting them hungry for the game so that they'll take their kids to the cricket, get their kids involved in cricket. So we have 16, each of the major associations have 16 contracted players. That's our player pool to feed our BLACKCAPS. They are contracted 7 months of the year, and then they'll head off to the UK and play cricket over there, or if they're lucky enough, they will get a contract with T20 franchise somewhere around the world. And we have 20 contracted BLACKCAPS for the whole year. So they will work with us all year. We do release them off, as you all know, to the IPL or contracts like that. And we now, excitedly, have 17 contracted white ferns for the first time ever. And I'm really, really excited about that because that's going to see a major growth in the women's game in New Zealand. So that's New Zealand. And I just wanted to talk about how small it is because we have this ability to collaborate and share ideas. And I was just talking with High Performance Sport and with Simon from the Crusaders about how we're lucky to be in such a small country where we can share ideas and not feel threatened. And so it's good that we can challenge each other. And in the cricket environment, we can easily get our 6 major associations into a room and debate ideas. We did that 1 year with our when we came up with this high performance strategy for cricket in New Zealand. And this is what, I won't read it all out to you. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the pillars that are related to what we do on the athlete management system. But we agreed on these KPIs around what we want to see from high-performing teams. And so we need an established IPP process and systems that are proven and work, and we actually don't have that. And we are working hard. It's like one of our hardest things is to try and get an IPP system where everyone agrees on it. I don't know if anyone else in the room has the same problem, but we just, every coach does it differently, every strength and conditioner does it differently. And so we're just really struggling around that area. I'll show an example of our IPP shortly. We want consistent, effective communications across all parties. And so the AMS is a great tool that provides that for us. Great players. We want physically capable athletes who understand injury management. And that may seem simple, but we really want them to take ownership over their return to play and things like that. So we can surround them with resources, but we also need them to have an understanding about their own injury management. The AMS is able to provide that tool for them to be able to do that. Our great coaches, we want coaches who have campaign plans and defined roles for their players. And we want those coaches to be able to communicate those roles to their players. And so we have tools within the AMS that are able to do that as well, but also aligning our coaches. Our players come in and out of our high performance environments into different teams, so we need that data to follow them, and we need our coaches aligned so that those messages are consistent for the players and not confusing them. And also we have a TID and selection component in the AMS as well. So I'm going to walk you, there's Kane, how lovely. I'm going to walk you through our AMS journey. I've been with New Zealand Cricket for 2001, since 2001, and like I say, back then we had laptops and computers. IP went missing if those people left Hamilton and they took their data with them. We lost a lot of data over these years up until 2010 when we finally got board approval to try a system, our first go at an AMS system in 2011, same year as the earthquake, so that was a challenge. So we went live with the system, and it was the first time in 2011 that New Zealand Cricket, as a national sporting organisation, had a central repository for all our data on our athletes. It wasn't very mobile, and we spent 6 years giving it a go, and during that time there were massive changes in technology, massive changes in the way our sport looked, and also in at the movements of our players in and out of differing high-performance teams. So we needed that data to follow them, and we needed it to be adaptable because the game was changing so quickly. And then so we found Smarterbase, which, like when we did the review, it was just like Smarterbase came out way above everything else. And the great thing about it is that as administrator, I'm able to build that system with the high performance units assistants in their specialised fields. So we've been with Smarterbase for 2 years, and we've got a lot of work to do, but we're getting there. So quick wins for us, I'll just walk you through the fact that it's customisable, because we have 6 major associations who do everything differently, and they want to do it differently, and we want them to have autonomy. New Zealand Cricket, we have specific reporting that we require on all our contracted athletes, but certainly we wanted the MAs to have the ability to report at their level, and they all have different ways of wanting to do that. So having a system that I'm able to work with the MAs and produce forms that they can use and that data can come to life for them is really important, because if the information that they're doing at their MA level is coming to life, then I found that then they'll happily comply to the reporting that we require from them. It's mobile, which our last system wasn't, so the fact that we can have an app that I can just deploy a hub to for our athletes who are going on tour, for example, is just absolutely mind-blowing for New Zealand Cricket. It's a game changer, and I think we've only just scratched the surface with that as well. The fact that we can get data in and out is really important, and I'm excited about the Power BI situation. But our coaches and our will export bowling loads and things into other platforms in order to get the reporting that they want. So having that is really important. Being able to administer the system in-house is huge. Our last system didn't allow us to do that, so for us that's key for me to be able to manage that. The athlete now in the environment that we have moves all the time, so they may move from playing for Auckland down to Dunedin, or they may move from a domestic contract into an international, and we need that data to follow them. I think I've said that a few times, but it's so important. It's just that data follows the athlete. The alerts, I got a bit spammy in the first year with the alerts in the system, but we had a lot of fun with them. We're calming down on them a little bit now, but it certainly brought that data to life. One of the things the players always used to say to us was that they would put the thing in there, but no one would see it, and so the alerts have changed that completely. So the athlete actually feels like they're being heard now when they put a bit of information in and we've got the alerts around it. And dashboards, I've got a lot of work to do there, and APIs, but that's just stuff that we're really excited about. The challenges that we've faced in New Zealand, this is just for a central repository right across the board, is just the building and deploying and having arguments and debating. Like, it's been a lot of fun. It was a major task to agree finally on the build that we have at the moment. That was a challenge. We have silos in New Zealand Cricket. We've got silos in silos sometimes, but breaking those silos down, sharing information, trying to convince people that it's about the athlete and wanting them to be the best that they can be. So surrounding them with the resources and sharing that information with other teams, national teams, is just vital. So that was a bit of a, prior to that, they kept it all very in-house. So that was a major challenge. And changing mindsets is an interesting one. We often get, it doesn't do what I want, so I'm not going to do it at all. So we get a lot of that mindset at New Zealand Cricket and around the country. Another one that we have that's really interesting is that we find that some people think that the system's going to do the work for them and forget that they can actually pick up a phone and have conversations. An example is a transition report, and I'll show you an example shortly where an athlete's moving from a major association up into the BLACKCAPS going on tour. We want the BLACKCAPS management to know exactly what that athlete's working on. So we have this transition report, and often a coach will push send and it'll end up at the BLACKCAPS level and they just expect that that's it, they've ticked the box. But what we really want are conversations and debate around what those coaches are working on or what the strength and conditioning coaches are working on. So changing that mindset of, oh great, I've just pushed the button, now I don't have to worry about anything, it's more prevalent than one would hope in a high performance environment. We have a lot of turnover, and actually it's a win for us when staff and move on to other roles. It's like we have a succession plan for our players. We also have that and are excited about that with all our staff. So physios and strength and conditioning coaches and coaches, if they're moving off into another environment, we're actually celebrating that because we're thinking for a small country, yay, that's excellent, off you go into your next challenge. But what that means is that then I'm getting an influx every year of new people, new staff, new training, new ideas, which is great, we like that, it's good to be challenged, but just new ways of doing things. So it's a challenge, but it's also an exciting reality in cricket. Buy-in's an interesting one. It's taken a long time for this big beast of an AMS to get a life of its own, but we've been pushing hard, and now that the data's going in there, it's starting to move, and this big boulder's starting to take on its own momentum. And I think dashboards are really going to help us in this area of getting buy-in from athletes and from coaches in the management team. So I'm looking forward to that in the future. Time and resources in New Zealand, especially with myself, my role, I wish I could do it 100% of the time. So we've just got to get really clever around and prioritise and things like that. But that's a real challenge for us in New Zealand. So we'll figure that one out. So I'm going to quickly walk you through a couple of forms. They're just really basic forms, but they're really important to us, and it's just, if I show you a couple of examples, this is operations. So the first one that that I'm going to show is a code of conduct process. So anyone that knows cricket knows that if a player misbehaves himself on the field, they are cited by the match referee. It's an actual legal process. So what happens here is that they will, we have a bunch of code of conduct commissioners around New Zealand during the season at any international and domestic game. They see just this. They see a grid. They see a grid of every citation against any player in New Zealand. And the reason they want that is that they actually measure if an athlete's having repeat offences over a set time. So this is just a very simple form on how they're able to do that, how they're able to review it. They can upload video of hearings, and if that player is repeat offending, then they can escalate the citation and the fine. So so the operations team now use that every across the season. We have a consent form now for minors on the system, which, so when we have an under-19 team heading away on tour or coming into camp, we used to get the parents to sign a nice little Word document and send that back to us. That's all done now on the AMS. Oh, excuse me, I'm a bit of a sci-fi freak. So they now do that on the AMS. So we deploy this to the athlete's app, the parent jumps in there on their 15-year-old's phone, they fill all this data in, they say they give consent for the athlete to attend a camp or to travel on tour, and then we go, sweet, we can now start booking their flights and getting them into camp. That's my signature. But so off tour, so when a player's off tour, we're working on their IPPs back at home. And so they've gone back to their major association. The IPPs, as I mentioned, are just a major roadblock for some reason, and we haven't got the answer yet. We have a basic grid in the system at the moment where you're able to load work-ons on whether it's batting, bowling. You can add a whiteboard session, JPEG, whatever you want against that work-on and just keep an eye on it. But yeah, a lot of people don't want to use the grid. because it's us telling them what to do. I keep trying to get them excited about the fact that anything's in a grid is data that we can then do something with. But unfortunately, some people want to use their own IPP, so we put a little upload document thing at the bottom. At the moment, that's where we're at, and that's why IPPs are just one of our major work-ons. We have a network of scouts around New Zealand. They also use the AMS to do scout reports on set players of interest on the red ball and white ball game. Of course, our BLACKCAPS our BLACKCAPS coaches want to know certain things about these players of interest, so that they have the ability to be able to input that from another form. And then our scouts just jump in here and they do a match report on every game on these players of interest. And what that does is it feeds it back to the selectors, because the BLACKCAPS are on tour. The coaches want to know there's a T20 series coming up. They want to know who is ready to be selected. And these scout reports are a big part of that. We also have a talent ID tool. It's called the Sunflower. So we have these are for under 19 players of interest that are coming up through the ranks. So we have people all out around New Zealand, and they will measure the player on these six key skills. And so it's just a really simple input form. The scout goes in there. It also covers things, because they're such young players. Do they play other sports? Is cricket their number one? What sort of have they had any amazing performances throughout their young careers? So we get all that data into one place, because we want to have a picture of the athlete, not just from a physical perspective, but their home lives and things like that. So the talent ID tool is well used throughout New Zealand. Also player contracts, as I talked about. Their players head off in different directions all over the place, so we keep that there now in the AMS. So a player may be playing for the Mumbai Indians one month and then heading off to play for Somerset the next. So we just keep a record of that in the AMS. Prior to that, it just sits on a spreadsheet in someone's laptop, and it's really hard to follow. Rehab plans as well off tour, so our BLACKCAPS management want to know if a player is going to be ready for the next tour. So the rehab plan's another basic form, just talking about clinical goals and a return to play plan. So anyone can contribute to the rehab plan, including the player themselves. That data then is available to the BLACKCAPS and management team and the selectors. Fitness testing and leaderboards, I won't go too much into that because everybody probably does that in this room, but so we've got basic leaderboards. This is a yo-yo. I've scratched off their faces so you can't see who they are. But yeah, so I've really got a lot of work to do with dashboards, and yeah, that's our work on for me, but to bring this data to life, really. So bowling loads for our pace bowlers is absolutely critical in cricket. So we have a very simple input system for our bowlers. They jump in every day. They enter how many overs they have bowled any day, whether that's in a practice environment or in a match environment. So it's split out by intensity levels. And they also have a basic wellbeing diary that they fill in. The bowlers, we sort of will bypass this sometimes. They just want to get the bowling loads in. But it's just a really easy way for the athlete to be able to in a decentralised program, let everybody know how they're going on a day-to-day basis. This is an example of one of the dashboards for the bowling loads. So this is one of our BLACKCAPS. So yeah, there's an injury event you can see there, and often it's due to a spike further couple of weeks before that. So we just want to be able to monitor the data around their bowling loads. And we have a medical transfer form in case they're heading off to the IPL or UK. Another very simple form, but prior to that, it was all via email or things like that. So the AMS is actually a really critical tool for a decentralised program. It's just anything and everything that has to do with the athlete. We try and get it in here so that we can share it. So on tour, this is just sort of a little bit of a workflow. We have the selectors will choose a team, and then they will ring that player and say, sorry, you weren't selected for the T20 series coming up against England, and these are the reasons. And we've had historically a lot of trouble and confusion around those messages because the players are emotional, so they've just heard from the selector and he's not going to play. So sometimes the messages that they heard and the messages that were given can be slightly different. So we put that into the AMS. Let's the right form. And it's really simple. All the selector does is he jumps in here, he puts in words what he communicated to his athlete, and then he pushes send, and it sends a PDF of that off to the coach back in the hometown of the athlete, and also to the athlete themselves. And they are then able to respond and say, actually, no, you didn't tell me that I didn't do this. So it's a really good, it's a tool that we use to open that communication and also to formalise the messages that they're getting around non-selection. And sometimes you can find trends in that data. So if a player hasn't been selected for a T20 series for a number of years and keeps continuing not to do the work in order to be selected, we can sort of see the trends around there and be able to sit down with them and have a conversation, human to human form. So, so the team's announced, and then as soon as it's announced, I create a group on the athlete management system because the BLACKCAPS only want to see the group that they're with. They can also see every athlete on the system, but they really want to be able to get to the people that they're on tour with really quickly, so I create that and then add any medical staff around them who are going to be on tour. From there, I attach a tour role to athletes. So for our athletes, that also includes a pre-tour screening. So this is medical. We used to do this on a Word document that would email out. And this is vital, really, really private information. So now it's all securely held in a system, whereas it used to be on a Word document somewhere. Now the athlete's able to put this in, and the doctor on tour, if they're in Bangladesh and haven't got cell phone coverage, are able to get to this information just like that, and that's really important for us. And we've had incidences in the past where this sort of thing has been needed. So they can get their next of kin detail. Any event happens over there, it's right on their phones offline, which is huge. So that's just an example of another form that we used to do on paper, which we transferred to our athlete management system. Then our major associations before the tour goes, completes a transition report, and that's what I was talking about earlier, where the coaches, strength and conditioning coaches, mental skills, will just give an outline on what the player has been working on so that when they enter the BLACKCAPS environment, their counterparts are going to know exactly where that athlete's at. And it could even be anything around what's happening at home, just so that they get a picture of where that player's at when they enter the environment. So those transition reports are really important. Emergency contacts, of course, in the current climate, it's just really important that our team in our head office have access to that information at the touch of a button, because we just don't know what's going to happen out there. Injury surveillance, we've been doing injury surveillance since 2006, and we've done that on an Excel spreadsheet. We've got a bit of work to do on here, but so we're coding any athlete in a certain squad as to whether they played, whether they were injured on a match day, whether they were unavailable to play due to training or match injury. We're able to then calculate the prevalence around the body part that they were injured, how many missed match days, that type of thing. So it's data that's really important to us. We need to bring that to life a little bit more, but now the physios and doctors are able to put this straight into the system. So we default to play, and then we code them at the end of the match day as to whether they have been injured or unable to play for whatever reason. The squad remains unchanged all season, so if they're not selected, we also have a code for that, and then we're able to include that in our calculations. So yeah, the big thing with that is that we want to start getting outputs around that, so we're able to see at any point in time how many players in a squad are unavailable to play because of a certain type of injury. And that brings up some trends that are really important for our support staff. There's another dashboard view, but we've got a bit of work to do there. And then at the end of the tour, transition reports are then sent back from the BLACKCAPS environment back to the MA, so that when the athlete lands back home, their coaches and their strength and conditioning coaches and their medical staff know where they're at. So that's pretty much, I actually talked really fast then, sorry. So that's how we're using the system at the moment in our decentralised system. And we've just scratched the surface, and we're excited about what we're going to be doing with Jack in the future. Last week we had the BLACKCAPS in for 2 T20 warm-up matches at Lincoln, so I thought I'd get an opportunity to get a couple of videos from some of the team some of the guys that I work with. Excuse the amateur video. That was me with my iPhone.
So the way New Zealand cricket competes with the rest of the world, that has a lot more resource and a lot more depth of talent, is for multiple organisations to come together and work together to take on the world. Now, the way we do that and the practical application that helps us do that is the AMS that sits behind the scene and helps link us all together. We're barely scratching the surface of this, but without the system, we wouldn't have a chance at taking on the world.
The system's been really beneficial for the cricket operations team. It really has two main purposes for us. One, it houses all our contact details for all our players and support staff, so if anything was to happen offshore or within New Zealand, we can pull those details up really quickly. And the second real benefit is that we've been using it around our code of conduct process. Our commissioners access it. It's a live database of all breaches, penalties and appeals. So it's live. People know exactly what the history is around each player, around each offence, and it's been a wonderful tool for us to use.
Smarterbase provides an essential communication platform to our decentralised programs. What it does in its current state is centralise all that data. However, the next step for New Zealand cricket is to make sure we can bring all that data to life.
So having access to scouting reports and transition reports via the AMS is absolutely crucial for my role as a Black Caps selector. The AMS is a fantastic central sort of repository of data, something that we can use very proactively, and certainly makes my job a lot easier.
So that was nice of them to do that for me. So what we want to do next at New Zealand Cricket, we've got a lot of work to do. I've only got a couple of bullet points here, otherwise you'd be here all night. But IPPs are just a massive, massive thing for us, and we're open to anyone that wants to share ideas about how they're doing that in their high performance environment. All of our contracted players, domestic and BLACKCAPS White Ferns, are required to have an IPP on the AMS, and we do that one way or another as a tick box exercise. But what we want to see is the athlete owning that IPP, so that no matter what environment he goes into, he's taking that IPP with him and communicating that to the coaches and to the strength and conditioning coaches, because we want our athletes to be the best in the world, and that's how we're going to be consistent in our performances out on that big wide world stage. So we really need to nail this, and we've got a lot of work to do. Integration, so we're excited about what High Performance Sport are doing with their ACC integration, but of course cricketers are really crazy about statistics, so we're really keen to get some live scoring data or season data into our athletes' profiles. So that's something that we're going to be working on, because the stats at the moment we're manually inputting, so there'll be a much cleverer way of doing that. So we're going to look at integrating what we're already using in other technologies and bringing that into the athlete management system. Analytics and dashboards, it is time now for us to bring the data that we've got to life. We have a lot of data in the athlete management system. I need some really good dashboards that are going to increase that buy-in that we want out there in our major associations. So I've got a lot of work to do in that area. And we're also doing a full review of our entire system, which is quite exciting. I'm actually excited by that. So we have some new program leads in the strength and conditioning area and medical areas, and so we're really going to focus now on pulling apart what we're doing and getting rid of what's not needed, and then really focusing on how we can adapt and move our game forward. That's actually me. So thanks for having me here. I did speak quite quickly, apologies for that.